name is Lauren. I am 30 years old and have been married for 6 years. My husband's name is Ethan. His name sounds like he should be some kind of artist, but he's just an ordinary software programmer. He takes home about $9,000 a month, and he loses his hair faster than he makes money. He doesn't smoke, drink, or play video games. His only hobby is coming home from work to take care of our kid. Our story starts with a night a little over a month ago. It was a Friday. I had finally managed to coax our 3-year-old daughter to sleep, and I was dead on my feet. I work as an admissions counselor at an educational tutoring center, talking to parents every day until my throat is practically smoking. And then I have to come home and look after the kid. Every day, the happiest moment for me is the second my head hits the pillow. Ethan came home quite early that day. He even made a special trip to the grocery store to buy shrimp and clams, saying it had been a long time since we had spent some time alone together. He cooked the food and went down to the corner store to grab a 6-pack of beer, arranging everything neatly on the dining table. I didn't think much of it at the time. After taking a shower, I curled up on the sofa, just wanting to scroll through TikTok and relax. He came over, sat next to me, and put his arm around my shoulder. His hands started wandering. I dodged him and said, "I'm really too tired today. Let's do it another day." He wouldn't give up. "I haven't touched you in half a month. You say you're tired every day. Which day aren't you tired?" "I'm really not in the mood," I replied. "I have to take the kid to her mommy and me class tomorrow. Can't you just be a little considerate of me?" He didn't say anything, but his hands didn't stop. I got a bit annoyed. I pushed his hands away, unable to control my volume. "Aren't you annoying? Every single day, all you think about is that trivial nonsense. I told you I don't want to. Can't you respect me a little?" When I said those words, I honestly didn't think there was anything wrong with them. I was tired. I didn't want to, and I felt I had the right to say no. Ethan's hand froze in midair. He stood stunned for a few seconds. He looked at me. His lips moved a few times, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He stood up and went out to the patio. I noticed his silhouette looked a bit off, but I didn't overthink it. He's a guy, I thought. He'll get over it in a couple of days. But this time, I was dead wrong. The next morning, Ethan was already busy in the kitchen. He plated some eggs and toast for me, placed it on the table, sat opposite me, and said, "Lauren, I need to tell you something. Starting this month, I'm only putting half of my paycheck into the joint account. I'll keep the other half for myself. As for the household chores, figure them out yourself." I almost choked on my coffee. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said," he replied. "Didn't you say I was annoying? Well, I won't annoy you anymore, and I'm washing my hands of the household chores." I thought he was joking. I laughed and said, "Are you being petty? It's such a small thing. Is this really necessary?" He didn't smile. He took out his phone, opened his budgeting app, and handed it to me. "Look at this. These are my expenses from last month." I took it and froze. The baby's formula, diapers, and baby food. He had recorded them all clearly. The HOA fees, electricity bill, internet bill, and even the $150 Sephora skincare set I bought were all on there. He had even noted down the $300 he secretly sent his mother for her birthday. "Before, my entire paycheck went to you, and I only kept $1,000 a month for my own expenses. A coffee and bagel is $7, lunch is $15, gas is another expense. That money goes fast. If my coworkers have a happy hour or a friend gets married and I need to buy a gift, I have to ask you for money. And every time you interrogate me about where the money went, like I'm hoarding a secret stash." He paused, his voice turning a bit hoarse. "I clear $9,000 a month and give you $8,000 of it. Is that really not enough?" I wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come out. "I thought about what you said last night all night long. You said all I think about is that trivial nonsense. But Lauren, we didn't do it last month or the month before that, and we only did it once the month before that. I'm a married man, but I live like a monk. Every time I have to beg for your charity, I'm acting like a desperate loser." He finished his coffee in one gulp and stood up to clear his plate. "Forget it. Let's not talk about it. This is how it's going to be from now on. I'll put half my paycheck in the joint account. Whether it's enough or not is up to you to figure out. I need dignity, too. I need to feel needed. If you think my needs are just trivial nonsense, then I'm not going to hand over my entire livelihood to you anymore." With that, he put on his jacket and walked out. The door didn't close loudly, but the sound seemed to shake my entire body. At first, I thought he was just making a fuss over nothing. I had just worked a long day and said something out of anger. Was it really necessary to upend the financial arrangement we'd had for 6 years? But in the days that followed, I realized he was dead serious. In the past, if we were running out of milk, bread, or pantry staples, he would pick them up after work. Now, if we ran out, we just ran out. I had to drag my exhausted body to Target and lug it all back myself. In the past, if the kid woke up with a fever in the middle of the night, he wouldn't say a word. He'd just throw on his clothes and drive us to urgent care. Now I was alone on the sidewalk with a sick child, waiting for an Uber and sitting in the ER until dawn. In the past, on payday, he would always ask if I wanted to go out to dinner or buy anything special. Now, on the 15th of every month, he punctually transferred exactly $4,500 to the joint account. The memo just read, "Household expenses, not a single cent more." But what drove me the craziest was that he started going fishing. Before, he spent his weekends at home looking after the kid, doing chores, and keeping me company. Now, every Saturday morning before the sun even came up, he'd pack up his newly bought Yeti cooler and tackle box and disappear for the entire day. Watching his back as he packed his gear, I felt an indescribable bitterness. This man, who used to revolve his whole life around me, now preferred to sit by a lake all day rather than spend time in this house. Once, I couldn't help but ask him, "Can you not go fishing this weekend? There's so much to do at home. I can't handle it by myself." He didn't even look up. As he tied a fishing line, he said, "Didn't you say I was annoying? If I go fishing, I won't annoy you. Isn't that exactly what you want?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. He had truly changed. One night, the kid suddenly spiked a fever of 104 degrees F. I was terrified. With shaking hands, I called Ethan. He answered and said, "I'm fishing. My phone is about to die. Call 911 first." At that moment, I squatted on the floor, holding my burning hot child, tears streaming down my face. I remembered how it used to be. Whether it was a big deal or a small issue, he was always right there on the front lines. If I was afraid of the dark, he'd leave a light on in the hallway for me. If I was scared of thunder, he'd hold me in his arms and tell me not to be afraid. But now, it was all gone, all because of that one sentence I said. I called 911 and rode to the hospital alone with my daughter in the ambulance. I tossed and turned in the hospital room all night. Just as dawn was breaking, her fever finally broke. I leaned back in the vinyl hospital chair, feeling like my body was falling apart. Ethan didn't arrive until after sunrise. He was still wearing his Columbia fishing shirt, and his eyes were red. I couldn't tell if it was from a lack of sleep or from crying. He handed me a bag with a breakfast sandwich and coffee and simply said, "I'm sorry, I drove back as fast as I could. I didn't take it." I looked at him and suddenly felt like he was a total stranger. This man used to be the closest person to me in the world, and now he felt like a roommate, chillingly polite. Days turned into weeks. His obsession with fishing grew. He upgraded from a small tackle box to a massive one, from one fishing rod to 7 or 8. He even bought a Garmin fish finder that cost thousands. Half of his salary went to me. The other half went to his fishing gear, gas for his truck, and his own food and clothes. He didn't spend a single extra penny on this family. I held onto my pride for 2 weeks, stubbornly feeling like I shouldn't be the one to bow my head first. But reality soon slapped me in the face. My base salary plus commission was only about $3,500 a month. Added to his $4,500, we had $8,000. After deducting our $4,500 mortgage, I had $3,500 left. Groceries for 3 people, preschool tuition, utilities, car insurance, cell phone bills, and the occasional social expense. It simply wasn't enough. By the end of the month, I found myself hesitating just to buy a $10 box of tampons. Once, I saw a bulk pack of organic milk on sale for $12. I stood in front of the refrigerated section for 5 minutes before finally walking away. When I got home, Ethan asked why we were out of milk. I stayed silent. He didn't press the issue, just packed his gear and left before dawn the next day. Looking at his muddy boots by the door, I felt an overwhelming wave of grievance. We didn't used to be like this. When we first got married, we were dead broke, renting a cramped studio apartment in a bad neighborhood. He worked his day job and drove for Uber at night just to save up for a down payment. One rainy night, he slipped on wet pavement and scraped a huge chunk of skin off his knee. When I put Neosporin on it, he hissed in pain but still smiled and told me he was fine. Crying, I begged him not to push himself so hard. He told me, once we buy a house, I promise I'll give you a good life. And we did buy a house, and we had a child, and our lives improved. But our relationship faded day by day. I didn't know when it started, but I had gotten used to just spending the money without a thought. I had gotten used to him waking up in the middle of the night to mix formula and change diapers. I had gotten used to him bustling around the kitchen while I lounged on the sofa. I had gotten used to him spinning endlessly like a perpetual motion machine. I thought he would always be there. I thought he would never change. I treated our marriage certificate like a lifetime insurance policy, assuming no matter how I treated him, he would always stick around. But looking at those muddy boots, I finally understood a heart can grow cold. It wasn't just that one sentence I said that night that broke him. It was the drops of coldness and disdain I had shown him over the years. It was the times I pushed his hands away when he wanted to be close to me. It was the tone I used when complaining to my friends that he wasn't ambitious enough. It was how I could always find a flaw in the things he bought. It was the look on my face when I said, "Look at how nice Sarah's husband treats her." It was my constant complaints that he didn't earn enough, wasn't romantic enough, that his hair was thinning and his belly was growing. That one sentence was just the straw that broke the camel's back. He didn't start fishing because it was so much fun. He went fishing because he found a place where he didn't have to face me. More than a month passed. In that time, I thought a lot. I watched his back as he left early every weekend, watched his skin get tanned from the sun, watched his words grow fewer and fewer, and my chest felt completely tight. He hadn't denied me a chance. That morning, when he laid his cards on the table, he was actually waiting for me to say something soft. But I didn't say anything. I even threw a tantrum for 2 weeks, thinking he was overreacting. He waited for 2 weeks, and all he got was deeper apathy. So he completely shut himself away. One night, after our daughter fell asleep, I sat in the living room looking at the empty house. The kitchen sink was piled with unwashed dishes. The floor was scattered with toys. Clothes sat wrinkled in the laundry basket. I suddenly realized that without him truly present, this house didn't feel like a home at all. I picked up my phone and opened my text thread with Ethan. The last messages were from half a week ago. He wrote, "Not coming back for dinner." I replied, "K." I stared at the screen for a long time. I typed a line, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted it. Finally, I took a deep breath and sent, "Are you asleep? Let's talk." The moment I hit send, my heart was racing. The chat showed the typing bubble, then disappeared, showed it again, then disappeared. This went back and forth several times. I waited for about 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes felt like a century. Then the message popped up, just 2 words, "Come over." Not "what's wrong," not "let's talk tomorrow," not "what is there to talk about," just "come over." I stood up and walked down the hallway. For the past month, we had been sleeping in separate rooms. We were like 2 strangers sharing a lease, uncomfortably polite. I stood at the guest bedroom door, raised my hand, and knocked. I pushed the door open. The overhead light was off. Only a small, dim lamp on the nightstand was on. He was leaning against the headboard in an old t-shirt, holding his phone, the screen still glowing with our text thread. He looked at me, and I looked at him. For the first time in a month, I truly looked at him. He was thinner, his face weathered, and he carried a weariness I hadn't seen before. The fine lines around his eyes seemed deeper. We stared at each other for a few seconds. Then he spoke, his voice very quiet. "Come in and close the door." I did as I was told. When the door clicked shut behind me, my heart skipped a beat. He patted the edge of the mattress. "Come sit." I slowly walked over and sat down beside him, a pillow's distance between us. After a long silence, I spoke first, my voice trembling. "Ethan, I'm sorry." He didn't say anything, just looked down at his hands. "I've thought a lot over the past month, about that night and about the past. I don't know when I turned into that kind of person." My tears began to fall. "You treated me well, and I took it for granted. I thought everything you did for this family was expected. When you got close to me, I was annoyed. When you cared for me, I found you irritating. When you were tired, I never once asked you how you were feeling." I sniffled. "That day, you told me you needed dignity, that you needed to feel needed. I didn't understand it then, but I do now." He looked up at me, his eyes red. "These past weekends when you weren't home, I took care of the kid alone, did the chores alone, carried everything alone. That's when I realized how exhausted you must have been. I thought of you when I was hauling groceries from Target. I thought of you when I almost fell off the step stool changing a light bulb. When our daughter had a fever and I went to the ER alone, my mind was full of you. I couldn't go on, crying so hard my whole body shook." He reached out and pulled me into him, letting me lean on his shoulder. His hands were a bit cold, but his grip was tight. Finally, he spoke, his voice incredibly hoarse. "Every weekend, I would go to the lake and just sit there, often for the entire day. I know," I sobbed, "you didn't really want to fish. I just didn't want to be in the house," he said. "Being at home, watching you rush around, watching the kid run around. I wanted to help you, but every time I thought of the things you said, I couldn't move my legs." He buried his face in my hair. I told myself, forget it, let it be. We're just roommates passing the days. But Lauren, I couldn't do it. When I sat by the water and saw other families out playing, the kid riding on the dad's shoulders, the mom taking pictures, I thought about how we used to be just like that. We leaned against each other in silence. After a long time, he let me go, held my face in his hands, and wiped my tears with his thumbs. "Lauren, I'll be honest with you. Over the past month, there were several times I wanted to give up. I thought about divorce. I thought about moving out. I thought about just living the rest of my life alone. My heart lurched violently. But every time I saw you get up in the middle of the night to cover the kid with a blanket, every time I saw you clumsily cooking in the kitchen, every time I saw your back as you folded laundry alone, I couldn't bring myself to do it. He sighed. You pushed me away, but I can't go far. No matter how far I go, when I turn my head, I still want to see you. Hearing that, fresh tears flooded my eyes. He pulled me into his chest, resting his chin on my head. Let's take it slowly, he said. We'll keep our finances separate for a bit longer, but I won't wash my hands of the household chores anymore. You don't have to carry it all alone, and I don't have to sit by a lake zoning out by myself. I nodded forcefully into his chest. That night, I slept in his room, not out of obligation and not out of guilt, but because I suddenly realized it had been a very, very long time since I had slept peacefully by his side. He just held me, one arm around my waist, his breathing slowly steadying. I knew he was asleep, but I stayed awake. In the faint light of the lamp, I looked at his sleeping face. His brows were furrowed. Even in his dreams, he couldn't completely relax. He was only 32, but he already had 2 deep, vertical lines between his eyebrows. I remembered when we first got married, he slept like a baby. The corners of his mouth turned up, as if dreaming of something wonderful. Now he frowned even in his sleep. I reached out and gently smoothed the lines between his brows. He seemed to feel it, leaning closer to me and tightening his grip. I pressed my face against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, so strong, so real. He's here. He's still here. I almost lost him, so close. The next morning, for the first time, I woke up before he did. I went to the kitchen, made coffee, fried some bacon and eggs, and poured some juice. By the time Ethan came out of the room, breakfast was already set on the kitchen island. He stood stunned, looking at me, then at the food. You made this. Yeah, didn't you always say my eggs were the best? It's been a long time. I don't know if they still taste the same. He sat down, picked up his fork, and took a bite. He looked up at me, his eyes turning red again. It's exactly the same. My eyes welled up too, but I held back my tears. I sat opposite him, drinking my coffee, watching him eat the breakfast I made. The morning sunlight poured in through the window, landing right between us. It felt like this house finally had some warmth again. Our daughter woke up, calling for Mommy from her room. I quickly put down my mug and ran over, Ethan following right behind me. He bent down, scooped our daughter out of bed, and lifted her high in the air. She giggled, throwing her arms around his neck and calling for Daddy. Standing in the doorway watching them, my tears finally fell. But this time, they were sweet. I finally understand now that the scariest thing in a marriage isn't fighting, and it isn't a lack of money. It's when one person takes the other person's goodness entirely for granted. Ethan was right. He needed dignity, and he needed to feel needed. And I almost pushed away the person who loved me the most, simply through my own coldness and sense of entitlement. Thank goodness he waited for me, and thank goodness I didn't make him wait too long. When I pushed open his bedroom door that night, I also pushed down the invisible wall between us. For the rest of our lives, I will never let him sit alone by a lake zoning out again, and I will never let him feel unneeded again, because I know now, some doors once closed can never be opened again, and some people once missed can never be brought back.